why and how India is promoting Africa. Now, India and Africa share a rich history of cultural, economic, and political interactions rooted in the spirit of developing together as equals. Indeed, India Africa tie may yet redefine the contours of the international order along more egalitarian lines. Despite robust engagement for over 70 years, the Indian government has not had a clear and long term strategy for its relationship with the continent. But now, with the new government, we have borderline the 10 guidelines principle for India Africa engagements. Now, when you see about Africa, Africa is a continent on the move characterized by a rapid economic growth, rising educational and health standard, increasing gender parity, expanding infrastructure and connectivity. The African region has witnessed growing trade, investment, and a surge in innovation. African government and leaders are playing an active role in shaping the continent's future. There is no longer remain passive bystanders. Various non Western powers like China, Japan, Singapore, Malaysia are also expanding their presence in the continent. So far as India is concerned, it has an intrinsic interest in helping Africa's achievement progress. We have the spirit of developing together as equals, which defines the bilateral partnership. A resurging Africa and a rising India can give a strong impetus to South South cooperation, especially when it comes to addressing the challenges in areas like clean technology, the climate resilient agriculture, maritime security, connectivity, the blue economy. However, in my opinion, the India Africa partnership is yet to achieve its full potential. What is needed is an infusion of energy, of something new and concrete with a specific focus and direction. You see, if you remember, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed Ugandan Parliament during his visit in July 2018, where he outlined about a vision for not just a bilateral partnership with Africa, but also a partnership in multilateral forum by exposing the 10 guideline principle for India-Africa engagement to represent a continuity in policy. We also wanted that fulfillment of contractual obligation that Africa will be the top priority of India. Then we will continue to intensify and deepen our engagements with Africa, and our development partnership will be guided by our priorities, which will build as much local capacity, create local opportunity as possible. And the Prime Minister also said that we'll keep our market open and make it easy and more attractive to trade with India, to support our industry, to invest in Africa. Then we will harness India's experience with those digital revolution to support Africa's development, improve delivery of public services, extend education and health, spread digital literacy. Then the partnership to address the challenge of climate change. Then we know that Africa has 60% of arable land but produces only 10% of the global output. So we stress to improve the African agriculture, and we will work with the African nations to keep the oceans open and free for the benefit of all the nations, and that Africa doesn't once again turn into a theater of rival ambition, but becomes the nursery for the aspirations of Africa's youth. Just as India and Africa fought colonialism together, we'll work together for just a representative and a democratic global order that has a voice for one third of humanity that lives in Africa and India. See, China has, of course, maintained the position as the largest investor in Africa over the last 10 years. by the numbers of new jobs created with a gradual substantial increase of newly created job on a yearly basis according to the new report. But China is increasingly involved in agriculture, manufacturing goods from Africa, and they continue to have a strong focus on oil, precious minerals, and metals. And even Africa imports from China many focus on manufactured goods such as electronic, clothing, appliances, and technology. See, of course, China is a tough competitor, but if you will see that India has engaged Africa for long. Its capacity to effect changes have been limited primarily due to lack of India's economic capacity. Conversely, China's deep pockets, the larger trade engagements, have seen it garner for greater influence. Chinese investment in Africa have been growing for more than a decade. In 2014, the China Africa total trade bilateral stood around 220 billion. In comparison to India Africa bilateral trade in 2016-17 was $52 billion. Like country like Rwanda, China is its largest trading partner and had linked a strategic partnership with Beijing. Now, Mr. Modi, Honorable Mr. Modi became the first Indian leader to visit the country and sign several agreements on trade, agriculture, defense in Uganda. And he delivered his first ever address of Indian Premier and announced two key lines of credit alongside support for African states across sectors as agriculture, health, education, infrastructure, defense, and energy. So both China and India had downplayed the Sino-Indian rivalry factor in each country's engagement in Africa in an effort to downplay the strategic and economic competition in Africa between India and China. And both are willing to help Africa